What are we doing back in here? I've only filmed like the first episode in here. What happened to Iron Revolution, the Warrior Performance, the thing? Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but... Oh, tomorrow. An invoice for his services for 3 episodes so far. Is this guy alright or what? That's why we're here, because we've got no budget. Well, what about old mate, Dave? Surely he'll want to chip in a bit more, get us back into a better location. Should I give him a call? He's not, what? I don't know what time it is in Queensland now. Anyway, daylight savings and... Alright, I won't call him, But it says make it payable to Pop Entertainment, Pty Ltd. Can you believe this guy? Some people, the things you do for them, before Raw Talk, nobody knew who the Pop was. Alright, fine, we'll film it in here. I'll do it on my own. I don't need the Pop. That's fine. Let's do this. Hey guys, hello and welcome to episode number 5 of the Road to ProRaw 10. My name is Ben Winstone. Thank you for watching as always. And I'm back where it all started, here in the home gym. Somewhere where I actually haven't trained for quite some time, for the last 2 training cycles actually, since positioning myself to Iron Revolution Gym, the strongest gym in the northwest of Melbourne. But it's nice to be back. It's been a long time since I've trained here actually. Probably since ProRaw 9 was the last time I was back here, and it's got a nice little feel to it. On my own this week due to some unforeseen circumstances from certain people. But let's jump straight into training, shall we? Now, we're getting into the pointy end. I did have a shorter prep compared to some other people, but so this week we start with squats, but just an interesting note just before we jump into squats and numbers. On this particular day, before this session that I'm about to show now, I actually resigned from my day job. So talk about getting in the right mindset and things like that for a big squat session. About an hour before I walked into the gym, I told the boss that I was going to leave. I found a new job working. I've decided to pursue a passion, I guess, that you hear people talk about a lot. And so I'm moving to Northside Harley Davidson at 770 Sydney Road, Brunswick. So before you buy a new or used Harley Davidson motorcycle, make sure you come and see me at Northside Harley, 770 Sydney Road, Brunswick in Melbourne, starting just after ProRaw actually. So it's going to be a really great experience, something different. I of course own 2 Harley Davidsons myself, and I've just decided to try something different. So fingers crossed it works out. There's been a lot of anxiety and stuff like that around the decision, and this was sort of clouding me a little bit as I went into this week's training, because it had been on my mind for a week or two, but to actually pull the pin and make the decision and then sort of walk into the gym and be like, all right, let's leave everything at the door here, let's switch on and let's focus. And it actually worked pretty well. So as you'll see, as it's rolling along now, we started with 330, and Arian's wanted to see how that moved, and it moved pretty well. And he put an extra 10 kilos on, and we squatted 340. So only 5 kilos off my current max in comp. And as we've gone along with squats, they've felt better and better. The depth is getting better. I'm not feeling really hesitant in the wraps or anything like that. It's just one of those things that's clicking and it's moving along. And to be honest, thank God, because looking at some of the numbers from the other guys, not that I'm comparing myself directly, but obviously, you know, you do have to be aware of what other guys are doing. And, you know, as I mentioned in the last episode, they've got strengths in different areas. My strength's in the squat, and it's sort of all coming along together. So the more we throw at it, the more it responds. And I haven't missed a squat in the last 2 preps pretty much. So it's been going along really well. We moved on to bench press after this. Now, bench has picked up a bit. As you remember a few weeks back, you know, I couldn't even get past openers really because I had a pec injury. I've been seeing Sean Bostock out at Melbourne Myotherapy and Remedial Massage in South Melbourne, and he's an excellent massage guy, physical therapist, whatever you want to call it. You know, he really knows what's happening on the body, and I've been seeing him weekly, and his treatment has really helped me progress to get back up to working weights and back onto the plan. So I worked up to 190 kilos for 2 singles. Once again, we're taking it quite easy with bench press, not wanting to push it too hard because I do have some issues with the pec and the shoulder and stuff like that, so it's just a bit of a tread carefully approach there. And then we also worked up to a final single with 195 kilos, so getting close, getting up there, and it's good to be back on track. But working with someone like Sean, I also get the added benefit of being able to probe him on a lot of questions about bench press, because he is a phenomenal bench press person, particularly in equipped lifting. Look him up at Brotown on Instagram, I believe he is. But he's got a phenomenal record with bench press, knows a lot about it. And as I've been going along each week, I've asked him a few different questions, and I'm beginning to tweak my technique a little bit, and it's starting to pay off. Now moving on to deadlift. So squat and bench press weren't the final lifts. I've still got a couple more to go for each of those. But this week for deadlift, we decided to attempt to pull my final heavy deadlift, probably a week earlier than expected. Now I probably wasn't quite prepared for it the way I would have liked to have been, perhaps a little fatigued from the squatting earlier on in the week, because I normally bench press on Monday, squat on Wednesday, and deadlift on Friday. So we loaded up 330, and the result was I actually missed it. So I didn't post it on Instagram. I wanted to keep it for the show. I've always been pretty open and honest with the training, and I believe that I don't really have anything to hide. I'm not out there to chase records. I'm not out there to win or anything like that. I'm just out there to try and beat my previous records and keep becoming a better powerlifter, a better version of myself in powerlifting, I guess. So it was disappointing to miss the 330, but as you'll see, the toes came up, and I leant backwards and lost balance. And it's something that hasn't really happened before, so it was a little bit puzzling. And we did some back down sets and stuff like that, and as I continue to work deadlifts, not to this heavy now until competition, but I'll continue to refine the technique and make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen again. So yeah, it was not the best end to the deadlift prep, because it had really been honking along pretty well actually. So especially the 320 for 2 sets of 2 the week prior. So I thought the 330 would go up pretty easy, but sometimes when you're at that nearly 100% mark, everything has to be on the ball, I guess. There's no really room for error and things like that. So if it's not right, it's not going to happen. So that's what happened here, but we shrug it off, move on. I know I'm capable of pulling the weight. The numbers behind it show that I'm capable of pulling the weight, and come comp day, I don't have any issues with it, to be honest. So moving on to week 6 of training. Yes, I'm going to put 2 weeks in together again, because we are approaching the event pretty quickly. Now, starting with squats. Now, this was the final squat session. So, as I mentioned, the week prior, I'd resigned from my day job, and that whole week had been quite stressful, actually, even leading up to squats, for a number of reasons. But I was determined to beat my previous comp best this time around tonight at the gym. So we worked up to 330 kilos, and that moved pretty well. I said to Arian that anything under 330 feels light now, basically. So that was my mindset, and I was determined to absolutely crush whatever he decided to put on the bar next. I went outside after that set, got myself mentally, just sort of stood there by myself for a little bit, and just sort of ran through the movement in my head. I like to visualize things a lot. Basically just picture walking up, getting under the bar, setting up, and taking that breath, getting the back tight, letting the bar settle, and then sinking down into the wraps, and then exploding back out of the hole with, driving my back up through the bar. So I sort of went through that, and I said a few other things to myself just to get in the right frame of mind, and the result was I hit 355 kilos.
Come on, man! Come on, man! Let's fucking fight! Let's go right here, we go. Let's fucking win this. Come on! Come on, man! Easy, man. Come on, here we go. Drive your fucking back into that motherfucking bar. Come on, motherfucker! Easy, man. Come on! Nice and tight! Nice and tight. Down. Back into the bar! Come on! Fuck yeah!
Which was, personally, it's phenomenal for me. So, I'm so happy to have hit that weight. It's just something beyond my wildest dreams. And in my training for ProRaw 9, my max squat was 305 kilos. Mind you, I was wearing sleeves. So to go an extra 50 kilos on top of that this time around, with the addition of the wraps is just phenomenal. It's it's really, really good, and fingers crossed I'm on track for that sort of 800-pound squat at ProRaw 10, which is just for someone that just used to train here in the garage gym behind me for years and years, and that number was something that was just dreams are made of. It was never something that I ever thought would become a reality, and now I'm sort of knocking on the door of it. So it's probably a little bit of a tip there to some of the guys that you think, am I ever going to hit this sort of weight? And if you just keep chipping away at it and put the hard yards in and work with people that bring the best out of you as well, which is extremely important. I couldn't do this without Arian. I've said this before. And this time round, I'll try and put the FUD up. All the crew, people came in that it wasn't their training night. They stayed late. They normally don't even train at the gym. They came in to help out. So I had this big crew of people behind me, and so I was lifting it for them as well as myself, and to be able to hit that number and everyone cheer and celebrate it was great. You will notice the rep was a little shaky. The bar had quite a bit of whip in it, so I noticed that as it was going down, it started to bounce a bit. I tried to pull it up and then slowly get into the hole, but as I got into the hole, it bounced again, and that's what made me sort of dive that extra couple of inches. And it's kind of like if you're driving a car and you pull up to the lights and you try and pull up real slowly, but there's still that last bit of momentum when the car stops and you still go forward a little bit. So that's one way to describe the bar whip to someone that's not too educated about it. And but the great part was I managed to control it and straight back up, and it felt great. So feeling very confident with squats, and it was great to hit that number in the end. So moving on to bench press, once again working up in singles, and again some adjustment to the technique, and we went to a single with 200 kilos. It felt okay. I've been, the pec and that's slowly been coming around. I've been massaging it a lot in between sets, stretching, spending a lot of time warming up and some prehab and mobility. And I'm confident that we can hit the final number in week 7, but so that was great. And deadlift, there was no heavy deadlifts this week, so we've started to deload for those in week 6, a couple of weeks out. And obviously wasn't going to try and attempt the 330 that I missed last week. We've wrote that off, and we just did some lighter work there. Now jumping into week 7 of training. Yes, I've gone to a 3rd week, but there's only one lift really to do, and that was my final bench press, which was only a couple of days ago. So final squats have been done, final deadlift has been half done, but the final bench, now this was the real, decider for me. I really, really wanted to hit somewhere around 205, which was my current comp max, and came into the gym and feeling really good. I'd been talking to Sean once again a couple of days prior when I had another massage, and we worked up to 195, which felt better than 195 has ever felt. And I left it to Arian to decide what number to put on it next, and he put 205 kilos on. So we went to 205, and that moved, really, really well. To it. It felt like I paused it for longer than the video shows. It always feels like that, but the video does look pretty quick with the touch and go, but it did feel, I honestly felt like I paused it for a little bit, but that's fine. It's not going to be an issue on comp day, but it was great to hit that number once again. So I ended up with final numbers of 355, 205, and 320 really for deadlift, so 10 kilos short of where I wanted to be. But for squat and bench press, I hit the numbers that I was aiming for, which was great. And I must really take that opportunity to say thank you to Sean as well for helping me with bench press. Once again, I made some other techniques for this just before the 205, and that included basically moving my fingers in along the bar. So where the rings are, I used to have my index finger there, and I've actually moved it across to almost where the ring finger is. So I've narrowed that grip a fair bit. I've taken arch out of the back. I'm sitting flatter on the bench, and I've put my feet out a little bit more and really focusing on driving those heels down the whole time throughout the movement. And the lift is really coming together now. So it's feeling very confident with squat, bench, and deadlift. So it's going to be a really great competition. So moving on to this week's supplement review, brought to you by the good guys, Dave and Jen at Kongcrete Nutrition, not the good guys, the electronic superstore, but yes, Dave and Jen, they're still rolling along with the show. Thank you very much for the support, I really appreciate it. And this time around we've got Always Moving Forward, AMF's joint formula. Now, it's got ingredients in it that I can't pronounce. I'm not a scientist. I do know one, but they're unavailable for the show tonight. But I'll put the link up as always. You can buy it from Kongcrete Nutrition using JUG10, the discount code, the 10% discount code. Don't worry about what discount codes Arian's using or anything like that. Just JUG10, that's the one you want to use for 10% off. Dave might even throw you in a few samples and other stuff too. But I've been using this for a couple of weeks now. It's always very hard. I never hold it up high enough or close enough to the camera, but there it is, AMF, Always Moving Forward, joint formula. So I've been using it for a couple of weeks. It's difficult to tell the benefits of it. Is it a placebo effect or is it really working? But I must admit that my body does feel slightly better this prep round. Sure, it's got its niggling things in the pec and delt and stuff like that, but overall the joints and the other body parts sort of don't feel too bad, and recovery's going pretty well. So is it a contribution of this? I'd like to think so. I'd certainly think that it's certainly got nothing to lose by using it, and it's been tastes well, mixes well, hasn't caused any side effects with upset stomach or anything like that. And I could highly recommend it. So we've covered sleep formula, we've covered the BCAAs, the creatine, and now joint formula. So a couple of really important things to throw into your kit there. Considering how much money you spend on equipment and other things like that for competition, to add a few extra supplements in there that have got some scientifically proven ingredients in there that help joints and things like that is really important. And as it says on the front, we put our body through a lot of stress. The mental state can only go as far as our physical state allows us. So it's formulated to support healthy joints and cartilage. And I can highly recommend it. So joint formula from Kongcrete Nutrition is this week's supplement review. I'm not going to take it dry. It does have a really nice orange pineapple flavour to it actually, but smells delicious, delicious too. But I normally mix it in my greens shake that I have in the morning with juice and some greens powder, and it just adds that nice little sweet taste to it. So it's highly recommended. But JUG10, the discount code for kongcretenutrition.com, so make sure you jump on it. Now, as always, you can follow me on Instagram at the White Juggernaut. You can find Kongcrete Nutrition on there too. You can probably find some other people there that aren't appearing on the show with me tonight, but we won't mention those. But next week, we'll try and sort out our bills, we'll sort out our legal status, and we might try and get the pot back on, and we'll review how my training went overall, his thoughts on it, and we'll also review how his training went and what we're sort of looking to open on and stuff like that. So it'll be a little bit of a reveal there, I guess, showing what the openers are going to be, and we're also thinking about maybe doing a bit of a preview, mostly for the 125 kilo class, and we'll highlight some of the best lifts from some of the guys, particularly those banana benders up in Queensland who have done pretty well so far. So there's a bit of competition. Marcus put on, the event promoter, put on Facebook last week that he expected Ryan Williams to come out on top with a total of around 1,000 kilos, which was it's incredible and completely to be expected really. But then the battle after that for the rest of the podium was, embarrassingly, he listed my name. So that's not something that I basically kind of never really dream of, to be honest. But to be listed against some names like Josh Tate and a couple of others was a bit of an honour, and it's going to be really interesting. So we'll run through a couple of those guys, see where they're at, see where their main lifts are at, and see how they compare, I guess, and what to look out for. So should be a good episode, and that'll just about wrap things up. But thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next week.